members of the Japan Foundation, and members of the International House of Japan. I'm so honored and privileged to be here tonight to tell you a little bit about my country and about our experience and partnership with Japan on many fronts. This picture actually it was inspired by the manga cartoons of Japan. And I like to show both the technology, the science, the artistic culture of India with Kathakali, the rockets going to the moon, the lion leaping to have a quantum jump in growth, and a girl just walking on the path for growth. So I want to just tell you a bit about my company because it's about business too. 80% of our revenue is from healthcare, but a growing 20% is from financial services and other businesses like glass and also data management in imaging technology. And we have leadership position across our healthcare businesses. We are amongst the top 10 global pharmaceutical customer service. Among the best CDMOs in terms of quality, reliability. We do custom research. And we are the top 3 players in inhalation anesthetics. Here we work and supply anesthesia to almost every hospital in Japan. And we have amongst the top 20 in almost every quality indicator in the world of pharmaceuticals. We have a global footprint. We have a presence in more than 100 countries. We have manufacturing facilities spread across the world. 75% of our staff are located outside India. And DRG is one of our group companies which has an office in Tokyo for the last 20 years. And we have been serving the medtech and the pharma and the biotech industry, and particularly all these companies, and working with universities as well. We also supply sevoflurane and isoflurane, which is for gases, to Pfizer and Mylan. And we also work with Eisai in Japan. There's somebody from there over here tonight, who we are partnering with to work in molecular imaging in Alzheimer's disease, which is a very serious and severe problem in this country, and it is also an increasing big problem in countries like India. So I was asked, yes, given that you have so many different businesses and you do a lot of different work across the world, how do you do things? So I'm the LinkedIn Global Influencer, which is an internet IT company. And so I termed this idea of how I do things and trying to give a secret recipe for many people who ask me this question, that I use 3 things: knowledge, action, and care. And these 3, not my invention, they belonged to an old text in India called the Bhagavad Gita. It is 3,500 years old approximately. And in Sanskrit, it is called Jnana, Karma, and Bhakti. And we use the Gyan Mudra like this. This is a sign of the Gyan Mudra, which is often seen in Buddhist statues, which is often seen in Hinduism, it is seen in Christianity, it is seen in Jewish religions. And to me, it means knowledge, action, and care. These are the 3 important values. And also the idea of humility. This finger bends down because if you have humility, you can learn from somebody else. And this circle, like the Zen circle, is not complete because you can then take in knowledge. You can complete the circle with human knowledge from other people. And that is why we call it the Gyan Mudra. We also have this idea of making a difference, of caring for people. Doing well, yes, doing well in business, but you have to have a purpose. Because without the sense of purpose, you cannot have the secret of happiness. And one person changed my life in this regard. I was in my clinic working like every doctor with thousands of young children. And one day this lady came into my clinic She's wearing a white sari with a blue border. Tomorrow she becomes a saint. It was Mother Teresa. And she came into my home, she came into my life and taught me the secret of seva, of service. When I would look at a patient, I would take my stethoscope and see the patient, right, on the heart. But she taught me to pick up the child and give it close, a hug, something which shows that I care more. And she wrote so beautifully for me for the first time when she met me. She says, the works that you do will bring you joy and will bring you peace. So I think the idea of seva is so crucial, is equal to, in my view, of happiness. It is about nations, it is about individuals, it's about every human being. And if we can care for the other person and the spirit of service, as Mother Teresa showed us, it would really give us the secret of happiness. So the first value is about knowledge. To get whatever knowledge you have very deeply, not just on the surface, to be very, very deep in your expertise. I think that really helps for success in the world, in whatever you do. And the second one is about innovation. I think I cannot stress enough, look at the Japanese economy, how innovative it is. I am breathtakingly happy to see all the different things that you are doing, whether it's in oil and gas, whether it's in architecture, whether it's in steel, whether it is in medical technology, and it's a very, very innovative economy. And I'm so happy and proud to be here to share that bit and learn something and take it back home. I think about women have to have both strength and compassion to be a leader. This painting on the left in the easel that you see is by a very famous Bengali artist. He was influenced by the Japanese style of painting. And he has drawn the woman with a straight back, showing her strength, and in front with curves, showing her compassion. And so a woman leader has to have both. And that is the balance that the world needs today. In a day where everybody doesn't understand each other, that intolerance is growing, that disparity is growing, that people are saying, even the top leaders of the world are saying, you're different, and we don't like you, and you please leave our country, or we don't understand you, and why don't you do things our way? And I think women have this ability to connect, to have both strength and compassion, and be a leader. I think that India has an advantage, and I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you about it. India can make drugs, for example, for 6 billion people in the world who cannot afford Western prices. We can reduce the burden of disease. Indian pharmaceuticals help to reduce and make it affordable. Today, there's a disparity between those who can afford drugs and those who cannot. And how do you meet that disparity? And one of them is using something called the India Advantage. My colleague from the pharmaceutical industry, from the CEO of Isai, was at breakfast this morning with me, and he was telling me how he makes drugs in India, in Vizag, Visakhapatnam, to reduce the dosage, the price of disease, of drugs, so that more people can afford it. So the biotechnology and the science sector and the IT sector are leaders in Indian technology and help to make things much more affordable in almost every field, whether it's banking, whether it's healthcare, or any other. So I call that the India Advantage. Indians also have the ability to quickly adopt cultural influences of others, but keep their values strong. But this banyan tree reminds me of India because it has very strong roots. And Mahatma Gandhi said that India is like this banyan tree. It has influences from everywhere, the Portuguese, the British who came, the Americans who partner with us, the Japanese art which influenced people like Tagore, but it keeps its foundations, it keeps its values, it keeps its trunks very strong. One of the things that is troubling me today, and is really a big issue, is about gene mutations. And I think we have to worry about gene mutations, the increasing incidence of cancer. Every second person seems to be getting it, even young people. In my son's class at Harvard, 10% of the people had cancer. And to get it so young and to get this disease because of so many toxic fumes and things like that is a signaling pathways that we are looking at being disrupted. So finding a new drug is not easy. The failure rate is so high that 1 in 100 drugs succeed. We know that number, and we know that 99 times a scientist will work years and years and then suddenly just fail. And they all drop in phase 3 mostly. So what is the answer? Are we going to pay this very high cost of drugs? Are we looking at stopping everything like machines in our life, environment, the paints, the fumes, the processed foods? What can we do? And I think to find a cure for cancer, we have to find innovative solutions. It has to be a multidisciplinary and a multi-sector collaboration, a pathway with patient benefit for the collective good. And I think reaching out across national boundaries is a new approach. I call it the asset-light method. In the past, every country and every company used to do everything themselves. They had their own factory, they had their own discovery, they had their own clinical development, their own hospitals, and the cost was astronomical. It was nearly $2 billion to find a new drug and failed so many times. So the new approach, I believe personally, that it could be a multidisciplinary approach. It could also have social scientists. It could also have public investment right from the beginning, because the public wants to know. They are the ones who suffer from the disease. So why not the patients and the friends of the patients, or relatives of the patients, invest in finding a new cure? For Alzheimer's disease, for example, many of the patients have formed a society which tries to help and actually publicly funds some of the discoveries. So reaching out across national boundaries, I think, is going to be the new approach. This morning I was so happy that we are partnering with a company like Eisai in Japan to do a study for Alzheimer's disease for their new drug. And we have a new tracer, a molecular imaging tracer. We should get approval in a few months in Japan as well. And the two companies will work together to find a cure for this very, very difficult disease. So I want to share with you a little bit of what I do as a foundation. The Piramal Foundation gets money from two sources. One is from the company, the Piramal Group. And so 2% and more than 2% of the funds come from the company. But the Piramal family, my husband and my children, also give our salaries to the foundation. And what we do is that we invest in the risk of making a new project. Suppose I want to find a solution to water. I will take the risk of making a new technology. Then, if it works, then we will take it towards the whole world. So the family takes the risk, funds the research, does the pilot project. So unlike many foundations, we are a working foundation. I have 5,000 people on the ground who go and do the work, whether it is health, it is education, or water. So we work in 4 areas. We have Sarvajal, which is to clean water. We have Piramal Swasthya, which is a mobile healthcare service. We have something called the Piramal School of Leadership, where we train headmasters of rural schools about education. And we also have a youth leadership. And the Piramal Fellowship is about young people, 21, 22, who spend 2 years of their life teaching in rural schools. And the two programs work very well together. Now I'll speak a little bit and show you some of that. So our reach is about 57 million plus beneficiaries in 11 states. We look at rural livelihood, we look at water. It's about 300,000 beneficiaries in 14 states. We clean about 9.27 billion liters of water as of yesterday. We have 1,000 schools, and we work with 400,000 children in 4 states. So our approach is about partnership. It is about innovation. It is about scale and sustainability. Now, in the social sector, we run it like a company. We measure everything. We have very good people managing it. We have, a very senior banker, for example, will lead the organization, and things like that. So we really seriously look into making this work, measuring impact, and making sure that it impacts people's lives. So let's talk about, for a few minutes, Piramal Swasthya. In India, we have a shortage of 600,000 doctors. Don't have enough doctors. So how will we get a doctor to every village? Because first of all, there's a shortage even in a city, and we have this huge problem of shortage. So we thought of doing a mobile healthcare service which goes in vans to a village on the same day every week. So it's a fixed time, fixed day service. It has a doctors connected with the laptop to the center. And it also does telemedicine to places where no doctor wants to go. There's one place in Andhra Pradesh where terrorists are there and no doctor wants to go there. So we have invented a telemedicine service, a very tribal area, very rural area, and something called a doctor in a box. We take the box and we put it in the rural area, and then we talk to the doctor in the city. And so this service goes to every village. Here you can see on top Chandrababu Naidu, one of our progressive chief ministers of Andhra Pradesh. He decided every village must have a visit by a doctor and by this mobile van service. So we work with him, we work with his team, and we have all these vans which go to every village every day. And the women surround the van and they get service. And with this idea, we are able to drop maternal and infant mortality dramatically. We are able to make a huge difference to thousands and thousands of women. The other thing that we do as the Foundation of Education Leadership, this is now recognized by Harvard University as a 21st century learning, as a new way of learning. Now what we decided was not to teach the teachers, but to teach the headmasters. And who would teach the headmasters? It would be young graduates who are 22 years old. They would get some training on curriculum development, and then they would go to the rural school, and they would train the headmasters. So in the beginning, this was very difficult. The headmaster said, "Who are you? You're 21 years old, I'm 50, and I have so much experience, and who are you, young child, to tell me what to do?" Big problem. But then that young boy taught him how to use a computer, how to look at a mobile phone, how to look at training even on the phone and using telemedicine, telecommunication. And so the headmaster became very, very proficient at computers. And once this group of headmasters succeeded in the training, they told other people and they told other headmasters, and we are now dealing with whole districts where, because of this effort, both reading and mathematics have gone up dramatically. So we are finding innovations that address the needs of people at the bottom of the pyramid. And while we do this, the young people are making that difference. I invite you to come visit them. Near Jaipur, we have this education leadership school, and you will see the energy, the passion of young people. When I see that, I feel that the world is in a safe place, because they are making so much of a difference. In places like rural India, it's a 2-year program. When they finish, they have no fear, because they have stayed in a village, in a family. They've learned to milk a cow. They have no phone. They have no money. And they learn to do everything, even the girls. And they go without fear for the rest of their life. They can achieve anything. the last project that we do is about water. And one of the big issues, and you mentioned in the introduction to me that India has 1.3 billion people. We have a problem of size, of scale. Whatever we do is so small. It's like a drop in the ocean. And it is, just for example, I do 2,000 schools, but the state of Rajasthan alone has 60,000 schools. That's one state, and we have 30 states. So it is an enormous problem. So how do you achieve change in 1.3 billion people? And the only way you can do it is to use technology, is to use innovation, to use science to help people build new lives. So we invented, my son actually invented this. He was only 24 years old. He was a student at Harvard University. And he went to the village and he said to me, but you are giving medicines, but it is of no use because the water is so dirty. So can we do something to help clean the water? So he and a friend of his, they went and they made this big machine to clean the water. In a few days, the machine got stolen and somebody just took it away. And here these two young students were very disheartened, very sad. And they thought that they should close this whole operation because it was no use trying to do something so difficult as cleaning water. But today, 5 years later, we are able to say that we clean 9 billion liters of water. And they invented an ATM, an automatic teller machine for water. You see lots of ATMs, right, in Tokyo. But here's a ATM for water. And we use cloud computing to tell that ATM to dispense water. The ATM is made of concrete, so nobody can steal it. And then you have a smart card, and the woman can just come and take water with the smart card and get water at 15 paisa per liter, which is 1/15 of a rupee. In the middle picture, there's this Queen Maxima of the Netherlands from UNICEF ambassador. And she came and drank the water so I was so happy that even a queen is drinking our clean water. And so here we have these wonderful ATMs all over India now. And so for this, we have won many, many, many awards. These were just in the last 2 years. And the one which I enjoyed a lot was the Financial Times, the World Bank Award, because the judge was from Africa. And she said, you have to bring this technology to Africa. And I hadn't thought about Africa because my own country was so many problems. So how can I think of another country? But I realized that I have no right to keep the technology, but it must be shared to as many people as possible in the world so that they can have clean water and get health care. So in the end, what is the impact of what we do and how we measure it? And I wanted to conclude with this slide that the social impact that we measure is 530 million people. But don't be impressed by that number because it's very small compared to the 1.3 billion people that we have in our country. So this is how we use the secret sauce, as I call it, from the Bhagavad Gita. I feel it is a secret of life. It is a secret of management of everybody's life. If you can use the values of knowledge, of action, of care, and whatever you do well, but also do good for the people around you. I think this is so empathic with the people in Japan, where it's a country where spirituality is part of you in everything that you do, whether you make a flower arrangement or you serve a bento box, or whether you walk on the mall that I was walking, everyone's walking on the left side. And I said, oh my gosh, why are they walking on the left side? To let other people through. What a compassionate idea. In my country, everyone would just rush to the end. But these are the things I really appreciate about your country, about its resilience, about its aesthetic beauty, about its idea of protecting the environment, of looking at Mother Earth, looking at the stones, looking at the bamboo. Like a bamboo, you are resilient to the typhoons, to the earthquakes, to the economic things which happen in your country. And the people are strong because they have deep knowledge. They have innovative ability. They act on that knowledge. They do things with it. They are today all over the world and collaborating because they have respect for the other person, for the partner. And finally, they also do a lot of good. So I think these three values I see very close here in Japan. So for me, finally, just being a woman, being a business person, being an entrepreneur, being somebody who cares about people everywhere. I think these words, you mentioned what are the key words of today. In my presentation, you talked about women and entrepreneurship. But I have a few more key words. I think it's about being creative, about using your brain to help reduce the problems that people have. And if you have the opportunity to do that, what a difference everybody can make. Man, woman, young student, every child. To have love for everybody, even at home. The sweetness of love in your own home I think is what determines your work and is a creation of happiness. So the sweetness of love in your home creates that spiritual air for making every person go strong and to do everything else in the real world. To be joyful with whatever you do is something that Mother Teresa taught me. Pick up that child, be joyful. Not just treat it like a patient, treat it like a person that you can just give them a hug, give them love. It's also about strength. It's about the woman who has a straight back and curves in the front to talk about her compassion. So it is both about strength and compassion. I think the new world is about partnership. It cannot be by division. It cannot be by intolerance. It cannot be by saying, you get out of my country. It cannot be something that you say, yes, you are different, and I'm different, and we have no respect for each other's culture. It has to be a partnership. I like your culture, you like mine. We both learn from each other, and we will have a better solution. It is about reflection. It is the beautiful shrines that you have in your country. I had the opportunity to visit many of them in Kyoto. I was so moved by every one of them. How the mist is supposed to rise and take your prayers to the heaven. It was so beautiful. It is about reflection on your purpose, on your role in life, and how you can make a difference. Very often we feel we are too small. The problems are too big. The scale is too large. One journalist asked me, as a country in Japan, we think that we have so many issues, that we have a downward spiral. How can we get an upward spiral? What is that secret? And I thought about it. I said, how do you get an upward spiral for a whole country? I know how to do it for a person, but how do you do it for a country? And I think the answer is the same. It is about leadership. It is about positivity. Most important, it is about service, about giving yourself to others and to making the world a better place. Using science, because without science you cannot find a solution. When you have the problem of size, of scale, the whole difficulty of a huge issue affecting thousands of people, you need to use technology. You need to use science to help solve that problem. It is about health. I think as a doctor and as a person who is in the healing arts, I'm so lucky to be here because it is a place, if you are in this business of healthcare service, you have the largest opportunity to do well and to do good. So I thank you for listening patiently to the way some of my thoughts and share some of the secrets which I have learned through saints like Mother Teresa and the Bhagavad Gita. Thank you so much.